Raider head coach Tom Cable this morning in Napa amid reports that on August 5th, he allegedly punched defensive assistant Randy HANSON in an altercation.
Listen, if you want to talk about this football team, the players on this football team, I'll talk to you all day. Otherwise, I'm not getting into it.
Murph's Fan Cave and Raiders Fan Radio present an RFR special report. Join us as we interview one of the coaches involved in one of the most notorious events in Oakland Raiders history. Unfiltered truth from inside the walls of Alameda. This is Falling from a Dream, the Randy HANSON tapes.
HANSON, who still is not identified who attacked him, was treated at a Napa hospital for a broken jaw. There are conflicting reports. One cites 4 text messages from players confirming Cable was the coach who caused the injury. Another said that Cable flipped HANSON out of a desk and then broke his jaw when his face collided with a cabinet.
Nothing happened.
A broken jaw, in the manner of which it was reported, is a felony. Napa police say if Mr. HANSON wants to press this, he has to come in and give us a name.
Part 3. So what do you think about the Raiders now? What do you think about, I mean, obviously Gruden comes back and he's heralded and it's this big celebration. And then 8 months later, the team is 1-7 and everybody's got their pitchforks out. Like, what do you think's going on with it? What do you think about the team now? Is the criticism of Gruden fair? And especially now that you've kind of opened our eyes a little bit to what happened in that Super Bowl. I mean, you know, is he
I don't think Gruden, I honestly don't think Gruden knew about it. I don't think he knew about it.
But I mean, is he the great coach though that we all hope he is? I mean, there's no denying his tenure with the Raiders, right? There's no denying what he did with the Raiders was great. But after that, it's all kind of a question mark, and especially now, right? What do you think?
Well, I think you got to look back at Gruden's career. And trust me, I was excited as anybody when Gruden came back. I was excited. Because even though I went against him, the one time I went against him, I nailed all of his plays, but you had to be insane to do what I did. I mean, you had to be crazy to even try to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, but people aren't going to maybe figure things out like that. But he was fairly easy he was very predictable, more so than you would think a guy would be predictable, especially somebody like him who's really, really, really intelligent, very highly intelligent football mind. But is he a great teacher? Can he get that? How does he do with, how has he been without Rich Gannon? Has he ever had any, Brad Johnson's the guy he had for a year or two. And he could, Brad Johnson, I coached Brad at Minnesota when I was with the quarterbacks in 2005. And Brad's a smart man. Brad's a very smart man. And in fact, him and Rich Gannon are buddies. In fact, you want to hear a Deflategate story? Both those guys had the balls deflated in that Super Bowl, so they were both guilty. But don't know about that. Yeah, him and Gannon go back, and he was telling me a story. He goes, Brad, when that Deflategate comes out, Brad calls me up, and we're talking. He goes, oh my God! He goes, me and Gannon, we paid the ball boys on both sides of the ball $500 a piece to get them balls fixed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's been going on forever. But in fact, anyway, that's a funny story. But Brad's a smart man, so Brad could pick that stuff up. You see what I'm saying? But so he won with Brad. He won at Tampa Bay because they had a great. He won at Tampa Bay because they had a great defense.
Yeah.
And they had They were efficient enough, and they didn't lose games on offense. They had a quarterback who didn't lose games, and Brad was kind of, he even to this day, I mean, he had a better season stat wise when he came and played for us at Minnesota in 2005 than he did that Super Bowl year. You see what I'm saying? Because that's just the type of team that they had and that were around him. And Gruden wants to win as bad as anybody, and Gruden knew he had a great defense, and so Gruden was going to make sure the offense didn't blow it because he knew that the defense was going to keep him in the game, and that's why they won there. But as time went on, his record got worse and worse and worse. In fact, he has a losing record there. In fact, he's 1-11 in his last 12 games as a head coach. If you did go back to Tampa Bay, that's a lot of losses in a row. And you look back at what he had in Oakland. Well, why did he win in Oakland? Okay, did he win despite Al Davis, or did he win because of Al Davis?
That's the great question. Yeah, that's the big.
And I would have to say he won because Al Davis was in charge of the roster. That was Al Davis's team, and you were going to play the players on that team, and your job was to coach those guys and get them better. That's what y'all expected. And so Gruden might not agree with everything, and they might, rub it, kind of go at it a little bit here and there. But at least, Gruden would listen to Mr. Davis. I heard that he would listen to him at least.
Yeah.
Might not agree with him, but he would listen and respected him. And he won there because of Rich Gannon. He had a great quarterback that could pick up the offense, and he had a very talented team around him. And he did a great job with those players, coaching those players. Where I think Gruden, and I think it happens to other coaches as well, is when you got the title and you're in charge of it, the roster and everything, when something goes wrong, it's easy to blame somebody else and cut him and trade him, or it's not my guy, or you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you couldn't do that with the Raiders. You couldn't do that before. You weren't going to be able to get rid of certain guys. Because hey, we drafted him, we're paying him, and you're coaching him.
Right.
If you can't coach him, we'll get somebody else in that can coach him. See, that was kind of Al Davis's attitude. Whereas now Gruden, he goes to Tampa Bay, and he has that great roster. But look at 2 years later, he's getting rid of Keyshawn Johnson, cutting him right in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's cutting players. I mean, what do you do when you don't have Al Davis to blame? Who do you blame?
Well, that's where he's at now, right? That he's taken the full brunt of everything now, whether it's justified or not. He's the he's the point man. I mean, no one's blaming Mark. No one's more thankful for Jon Gruden than Mark Davis, because nobody's talking about Mark Davis right now. Everyone is pointing the finger at Jon Gruden.
And and here's the thing: do I think Jon Gruden is a good coach? Yes, I do. Do I think he did a great job with the Raiders? Yes, I do. Do I think he's a great general manager? No, I don't. Do I think he's good at evaluating talent? No, I don't. But is he a great X and O guy? Is he a great football mind? He's one of the best around. Is he one of the best teachers? Well, no, I don't know. I mean, they call him the quarterback guru, but didn't Rich Gannon have his best year after Gruden left?
Yeah, it was his MVP year. Was after Gruden left. Yeah.
And you see what I'm saying? So you got to start factoring those type of things. And then I look at that Super Bowl, and I'm just telling you. I mean, I know it's possible because a guy approached us one time about it. And now you got to think this has happened around the league because sometimes you got to question things. How did Buffalo beat Minnesota, for crying out loud?
I know, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I start thinking, I always have people call me up and say, hey, who do you think is going to win this week? Or who do you like this week? Because they want to, they throw money down on the games because everybody wants to bet on football. Right? That's the big thing. And isn't it legal now? I'm not sure. I think it is, right?
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. I
always tell people, I said, don't do it. I said, don't do it. I mean, because I just know that am I 100% sure that happened? No. But am I 100%? Do I 100% believe that it most likely did happen? Yes. Because Rich Gannon threw 5 interceptions in one game and he only threw
10
all year. And the way that game, just from being a coach, I know when you have a team nailed. Like we had Denver nailed in 2007 when they came to Oakland. We just nailed them, and we played great because we had them figured out finally. And then you go into games a lot of times where you know one team real well like Carolina, but then the next week you're playing Green Bay or somebody like that, and you don't know them that well, and they kick the out of you. Okay, so that happens in the NFL. But it's very rare for a team that's consistently bad to be a team that's consistently good, especially on the road. Like Buffalo. I mean, that's just those things seem to happen every now and then. They're very rare, but do I think it's possible? Do I think that happened in the Super Bowl? I really do. I really do. And I don't think the players. I think the Raider players knew something was up because it gets frustrating for when you're on the field. And the defensive players say, "Hey, what's the run? What's the run? That's the play coming out. That's the play that he got called." And so you start thinking they know something, right? They know something. You start thinking that they know our plays, and well, they did. We used to do it in practice. We have scrimmages. Our players used to call out the plays of the offense, and they'd get all pissed off. So it gets frustrating. Then they're thinking you're cheating or something's going on. And I could see why the Raider players that day, like Sam Brown and Jerry Rice and those guys, they knew something was up. They are thinking, well, it had to be our guys tipped them off or whatever. But
right.
no one ever put. That's going through their mind. Like, who would do this? Why would they? Who was the guy that sold us down the river? That type of thing. But it was really nobody that I really do not believe Jon Gruden knew anything about it. I believe that somebody on the defensive side of the ball did, and I believe that they knew the calls coming. They were getting the signals, and they were relaying the information to the players on Tampa Bay's. Tampa Bay's huddle about the same time Gannon was relaying it to his players, on the field. So I think both huddles were getting the same calls. I really believe that. And I'll tell you another story.
Okay.
When I was playing with coaching with the Minnesota Vikings, we played Green Bay in the playoffs. And going into that game, you always have to meet with the officials before the game and go over any special plays you have, trick plays or whatever. They want to see what the trick plays are, because they want to make sure they're not caught off guard and they don't blow an inadvertent whistle or make a mistake and screw the play up, right? That's kind of why they do this. And so we have a fake field goal going in against the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be the first time we get inside the 20-yard line and we don't score. And what we're going to have happen is the play's called sleeper, and Randy Moss is going to act like he's pissed off that he didn't get the ball. And he's going to come over and start yelling at the coaches on the sideline. Okay, and he's not going to walk all the way off the field. And then just before the ball is going to be snapped, he's going to know if some coach is going to weak out. He's going to know at that point to get back inside the numbers, and then he's going to be standing out there all alone. Gus Frerott's going to get the snap. Our kicker was Morton Anderson, and what was going to happen is Morton was going to act like he's going to kick it, and Gus is just going to pull the ball and throw it out to Randy. He's going to be wide open for a touchdown. And we were not going to have our guard Corey Whistle in the game on this play, so they would, it would be tough for them to notice that we're missing a guy, right away in that situation. So anyway, we explained this to the officials during before the game starts, when they come in and meet with us. We tell the officials about our fake. So we're in pregame warmups now, and we're on the field. We're on our side of 50. We're in Lambeau, and Minnesota's on their side of 50, and we're in the middle of pregame warmups. And all of a sudden, our wide receiver coach, who played for the Vikings, Chris Walsh, he starts screaming at the officials. And there's he's yelling at him, he's this and that, and we're like, what's up? And then the officials start running off the field, and he's screaming, they told Mike Sherman about our fake field goal. I listened to the whole thing. They told him exactly how it was going to go down. And just in the pregame warm-up, the officials are telling Green Bay how we're going to run our fake field goal. Before the game, they're telling the head coach. And Chris Walsh catches them. And so the officials, they go running off the field, and the offensive line coach goes chasing after them. And he waits. They go lock themselves in the coach's room. And our offensive line coach, Steve Loney, he's waiting. He doesn't even go into our locker room, when we go back in just before we come out again. And he waits for him, and the officials walk out, and Loney confronts him. He says, hey, listen, here's the deal. We know that you told Mike Sherman about our fake field goal, and you're going to give us every single call today, or we're going to report it. It's going to become a big story. It's going to screw professional football up. Kind of way they went back in the room. This is the way I heard it. The story from, if I remember correctly, they went back in the room for a few minutes and they came back out. And I think we had that day. I think we had 3 penalties. They were like false starts or motion. You didn't have penalties you had to call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't get a call on us after that. We ended up beating Green Bay. That was another game where Randy Moss scored 3 touchdowns. We knew when they were blitzing and when they were doing this by tendencies. We get certain formations and we knew what we were going to get by how they lined up. But we were all over Green Bay. But now we had the officials who had to keep it straight. Not only that, they had to really keep it straight.
Wow.
And come to find out, that same official is also the guy that keeps screwing up that coin toss in overtime. That's the same dude, I think. And also, he's a tough little guy too. I think that was the same guy. But yeah, that's a true story.
Oh my god,
it's a true story. But nobody knows about people. The fans don't know about that type of stuff. It doesn't. But I'm not afraid to say it now because I'm leaving the country. Come Wednesday out here, buddy.
Oh my gosh. Well, I wanted to ask you about that. What's next for you, Randy? I mean, you've got this long history in the league, and like you said, you've been quiet for the last 10 years. And so have you been trying to get back in the league and you decided that you're just finally finished and you're just going to go head off to paradise, or what's the deal, man?
Well, okay, let me go back to how everything went down. Okay, so I don't. People think that I just filed a lawsuit against the Raiders and all that, and that I was, the way the DA made it sound like, I was just trying to extort money from the organization. When he came out in that press conference, he basically blew me up and called me a liar. Okay, but what the people don't understand is those police reports have been sealed, and they're still sealed to this day, except I have a copy. And that copy of those police reports are totally opposite of what the district attorney said at this press conference. The police did recommend two different felony arrest warrants for Tom Cable. One, after they interviewed the coaches in the room who corroborated my story without me ever even knowing they talked to him. Before I ever talked to him, before I ever spoke to the police, they already had a warrant out for his arrest. Okay, then they added an additional felony charge after I finally agreed to interview with him, and that wasn't until almost October. Because I initially, like I said before, when it happened, I tried not to say anything. I had to go to the hospital that night about midnight because my jaw was just killing me. I knew something was wrong. And John Keenan, as a matter of fact, he's the one that told me, he goes, "You need to go to that hospital, man." He goes, and he was, I don't think he was a big fan either of Cable, to be quite honest, him or Kevin. But
did he hit you, or did he? Because there's all kinds.
No.
Okay.
No. What he did was, he was standing behind. Four of us were sitting down, and he was standing behind me, and then he took me from my chair and he threw me out of my chair, like pushed me out of my chair.
Uh-huh.
And I went forward and my face slammed against a cabinet that was next to the table we were at.
Okay.
And then, so that's how my jaw, the jaw being broken wasn't the issue. My main problems with my teeth. I've had problems ever since. In fact, I've had one that had to get finally pulled permanently, and then there's another one that's going to probably have to get pulled permanently because I just don't have the money to get fixed. You know what I mean? But you can't see them; they're in the back. But yeah, I had a couple of teeth that were really cracked and stuff from that. But it wasn't. No, in fact, I never ever said I was punched by Tom Cable. He's the one that said I never punched him. And then the DA is the one that came out and said we determined through our investigation that no punches were ever thrown. I hope so. I never said they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's how they made it look.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like I couldn't get my story straight.
Yeah.
Well, I never said that. You see how they spun it?
Yep.
So anyway, they don't file the charges. Then there's a big thing about the NFL is going to investigate it now because you know what? Just because the police don't file, the DA didn't file charges doesn't mean the NFL won't do something. And so for 6 months, the NFL investigates this thing, and then they come out like on a Friday, like in February after the Pro Bowl's been played, and they come out and with a statement that they determined that there's going to be no punishment and that the police didn't recommend charges against Tom Cable. And so if the police are going to recommend charges and then we can't do anything. Well, the police reports are sealed. I do have a copy of them, and the NFL never interviewed me during their investigation. I never heard from them. They never called my interview me. That's finally when I filed my lawsuit.
Okay.
That's when I filed. I wasn't going to file. I was just trying to get back. I just want to come back. I didn't spend my whole life to go for this to happen and then to be that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just want to come back. But then at that point, the writing was on the wall. I mean, this is bigger than the Raiders even. This is the NFL. They're not even telling the truth now. But no one knows about this was before TMZ, and no one ever could get the police reports. So it's kind of like the Ray Rice deal, where those police reports were sealed also, but a police officer leaked them, and that's how it got out. But I just didn't have a police officer in Napa leak them out, so I never got the break. You know, you see what I'm saying? So anyway, to make a long story short, I'll try my best here. So I filed a lawsuit, and the Raiders and Cable say they argue that I can't file a lawsuit because I signed an agreement to go through NFL arbitration in my contract. My attorneys argue, well, that's correct, he did, but you guys already made a decision when the NFL decided not to punish Cable, so you guys have ruled yourself out. So now he should be able to, that was the argument. And I won it. And I won it. They battled it for 2 years, and I won. And the judge was a guy that's been doing it for, I don't know, been a judge for 30 years or something like that. and he ruled in my favor. And he said, yeah, the NFL has already, the commissioner's already come out and determined that he wasn't going to punish Cable after doing an investigation, so that he shouldn't be able to also be the judge again after he's already had a ruling. He's biased. That was his ruling. So for one day, I had a civil trial where I was going to actually get it to be in front of a jury. That lasted one day because that judge was removed from my case, within a week. They got him kicked off the case for claiming bias or something like that. A new judge came in and ruled completely opposite, and I had to go through NFL arbitration. And of course, I lost. I actually had to pay legal fees, and I've been broke. And then I've basically been broke ever since. But anyway, I mean, I'm not 100% innocent on everything too. There's a lot of things I did I wish I would have done differently too. So I take responsibility for a lot of the things that happened that put me where I'm at now. What led up to it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened, but it did, and that's just the way it is. Do I hate Tom Cable? No, I don't hate Tom Cable. Why did he do it? Why would he do it?
Do you resent the idea that he's got to continue on with his career though, and you unfortunately have not been able to pursue it? Like you said, your goal in this whole thing was just to stay in. Like this was your lifelong goal. Do you have any resentment back towards him?
No, I just feel bad for the Raiders because they lost a great coach. Listen, Nnamdi Asomugha had the 4 greatest years of any cornerback in the history of the NFL. After my jaw was broken and I was sent home, Nnamdi snuck a laptop out for the next 2 years, and I worked with him every week. And I gave him tips on every guy he covered.
Kidding.
He became the highest paid player in the history of the game. And he even wanted to hire me and take me with him he was going to give me a place. He was going to rent me a place in Philadelphia to get me a car for the season. And he would get a laptop with all the games, and he just wanted me to keep working with him. But I had just signed a contract to coach in the UFL with Denny Green, and I was still trying to get back in the league, so I didn't go. And then Nnamdi he just went. He was never the same.
And they didn't use him properly, did they? I mean, you could probably tell it a lot better than I can. But didn't they have him in a kind of a funky scheme?
Well, here's the deal. With a guy like Nnamdi Asomugha, you don't play him off coverage, number one. He's not he's too lengthy and long. His change of direction isn't like that. He's not going to have great change of direction because of his length. His quickness is going to be a little bit less than a Steve Smith type of receiver. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
However, if you put Nnamdi up on the line of scrimmage with his long arms, because Nnamdi's fast now. He ran 4.47. He's not slow he's 6'1.5", 6'2", 210 pounds. He was fast. He was 4.47, by the way. That's pretty fast. Now, that's slow Raiders for Raider times, but that's fast for everybody else.
Right.
He's the slowest guy we had, but he's faster than most of the guys he was covering. He's probably still in the top half of the league in speed easily.
Sure.
But anyway, here's how Nnamdi was really good playing press coverage and playing cover 2, where he was off a little bit, but then he could squat and jam receivers at the Chuck rule and all that just before 5 yards. He'd be about 4 yards and he could just bang him and then fill in the zone. He was the best cover 2 guy I ever coached, and he was the best man-to-man press guy I ever saw because of his size and his length and his intelligence. You're talking about a player that studied more. This guy was no player I ever coached studied like he did. I'm talking nobody did. He got me that laptop, and he'd give me every game, and I'd sit and break down these games for him, give him tip sheets, and then we'd meet like he couldn't be seen with me. That'd be a big problem then, because I'm still helping him out after all this happened, and no one even knows about it, right? And so anyway, he would bring me a laptop on Monday. For example, they're playing the Chargers, so I'd get a laptop on the Chargers like the week before. So I'd have the Chargers done for him like the Monday before they played him. And so we would do an exchange. So he would bring a laptop with the next opponent on there that Monday, and I'd get back the Chiefs. He'd have the rest of the week to study the Chiefs, and then I would be on the next team for him. So I was a week ahead of him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we did this for 2 years. For 2 years we did this. There was a time where this is also true. In 2009, the year of the incident, I was working with Nnamdi, and my attorney was doing an interview, and he brought it up in an interview, and the Raiders found out about it. And I was like, oh, no. That wasn't something – you weren't supposed to say that,
Yeah.
And that was one thing you didn't want to say because I don't think my attorney understood that part of it. And that's just not, you're hurting Nnamdi now. And so I wasn't able to, they took the laptop from him, by the way. They wouldn't let him use it for the rest of the year. And he kind of had, and so then, I didn't hear from Nnamdi. I saw him maybe one time. We didn't really talk or anything, and I'll never forget it. The following season, and I get a call from Nnamdi or a text from Nnamdi. And he said, "You ready to go to work?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I got a laptop." I said, "Are you serious?" John King, not John King, but John Otten and Nnamdi. John Otten is the only other guy that knows about it, other than me, Nnamdi, and now everybody else. Well, it came out in my arbitration hearing, so I guess it's not, But yeah, that's for 2 years I was helping him, and then he came back even after he got in trouble. He came back and still asked for my help, and we had to make sure we didn't get caught. We didn't get caught, and I helped him the entire season. Then he signed with the Eagles, and had they not had the lockout, I probably would have been living in Philadelphia during that season, helping him out. Oh, uh-huh. But they had that lockout that year, and I ended up getting hired by Dennis Green to go to Sacramento in UFL. So right at about the same time Nnamdi signed that contract, Philadelphia. So I did, I'll tell you got to be careful about that type of stuff too, because you don't want to get a player in trouble, because then they're going to say, well, are his coaches good enough or whatever? But right. I knew the situation with him, and I knew what he was dealing with. And I knew that it was important to him, and so I did it. I did it for free because I wanted the Raiders. I still want the Raiders to win. I mean, I might not like Tom Cable right now, but yeah. I'll tell you what, though, if we're both wearing silver and black on Sunday, then we're the best buddies in the world. But then after that, we don't have to be friends. But on Sunday, that was my attitude. That was kind of the old Raider attitude. But yeah, I worked with that Nnamdi. There was a video that came out recently. It's on YouTube. It's called "What Happened to Nnamdi Asomugha," or whatever happened, or what happened in Asomugha. How did this guy go from being so good to being out of the league within 3 years and just falling off the face of the earth? And there's a lot of theories about it, but the best 4 years that he had, I was helping him. I was giving him information that he could decipher. He knew everything those guys were running. He had less balls thrown at him. In fact, he was too good at it. He never got any more interceptions because he was too good at it. Yeah. He was like Mike Haynes. Yeah. And he quit throwing the ball over there.
Yeah. It would go back and forth. The debate was like him and Revis. It was like those two guys were the absolute, unless you tell me different, they were the last of the kind of lockdown corner kind of guys, right? I mean, other than maybe a Richard Sherman or Pat Peterson, but other than that, it was Nnamdi and Revis were like, leaps and bounds better than everybody else.
Yeah, in fact, Nnamdi was so good. Nnamdi was so good that even Lester Hayes and those guys, they were enamored with him. Lester Hayes and Charles, everybody was in that. Deion Sanders, for crying out loud, came out and said, "This is the best. You're the best guy I've seen since me."
I remember thinking back then it was such a shame that Charles was in Green Bay at the time because, can you imagine Woodson and Nnamdi, Woodson in his prime playing with a young Nnamdi? My gosh, that would have been disgusting. That would have been Hayes and Haynes all over again, right?
Hayes and Haynes, I'll tell you what, those guys were something else too. And Nnamdi was in that mode because you got to remember Lester Hayes. Let's put it like this: have the Raiders ever won a Super Bowl did the Raiders ever win a Super Bowl with a DB under 6 foot?
No.
No, they didn't, did they?
No.
With corners, yeah. The Raiders won all the Super Bowls with tall quarterbacks, right? Skip Thomas was tall. Willie Brown's over 6 foot, right? Well, Lester Hayes is over 6 foot. Mike Haynes is over 6 foot, right? And then you go back to Dwayne Osteen. He was over 6 foot, okay? And he started that year against the Eagles. And then, so you look at the Raiders. And I never knew this until Mickey Marvin told me. We were at a scout, and I was raving about this cornerback who was like 5'10". And he said, we never won a Super Bowl with a corner under 6 foot. And I thought about it, and I said, my God, you're right. You're right. And Nnamdi Asomugha was the best there was. There was nobody like him because he knew what the other guy was going to do. Not only that, he was long and lanky. They couldn't get open. You watch that videotape, and like guys like, receivers are talking about it from the opposing team saying, hey, man, he knew what I was going to do. and I knew he knew what I was going to do. So I would say, he knew everything. It's true. He did. He really did. He would tell everybody he would tell all the players. He would relay the plays across the field to everybody else. He knew the other team's tips and tendencies so well that he would yell over and say, "Hey, you're going to get this over there. Hey, watch the screen." And he would be right. He was good at that. And he was more than just a great cornerback for the Raiders. He was the guy that knew everything. So he made other players good because he told them the plays based off his film study.
Right.
That's how good he was.
Wow.
And then he went to Philadelphia, and you're right that they played a different scheme with him. And Nnamdi was primarily a right corner. People think that he always matched the best receiver, but that wasn't always the case. On third down, he might. On passing situations, he might, but he didn't always match the best receiver on first and second down. He played on the right side. You get him over to Philadelphia, they want to match him on the best receiver on every down. Okay, well, that wasn't what he was used to doing, right. You see. And so now he's playing sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right. Now, if it was third down, Nnamdi was good enough to study third down and getting third down nailed so good that he could go cover anybody on third down because he knew it so well. But when he started throwing first and down, second down, then the situations, that was a little bit too much for him. You know what I mean? Without having somebody there to give him the tips, and without that extra guy helping him. So that was him being moved around to different spots, changed him, and then them playing him in zone off coverage was not good coverage for him. That would be the worst. That would be the last thing I would ever ask him to do, was what they had him do a lot of. And that's play off man, no help, basically is what you're playing when you play quarters. Depending on the route combinations you get. Obviously, the offensive coaches understand this too, so they're going to run routes to where you're going to get single coverage, one-on-one, no help. And Nnamdi, if he didn't have help over the top when he was playing off, he was in trouble because he couldn't change direction and, playing off and backpedal and open his hips quick enough to turn and run with guys. You bet you if you put him right on him on the line of scrimmage, he could do that all day long. He could knock the guy. The guy can't even get off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. But
when you play him off, then that wasn't something that he was really good at. And then, his defensive coordinator never coached defense before. I mean, the guy was an offensive line coach and they made him the defensive coordinator. Right. Not that he did do a bad job, though. I'll tell you what, he didn't do a terrible job. They were okay. But still, he didn't, it was his first year doing it since, I think college. And he'd been an O-line coach for his entire career. And I believe that he went back to being an O-line coach and still is in the league. But, I'm pretty sure he is. I'm trying to think of his name right now. So anyway, I know my stories go on and on, but I got a lot to say.
I'm telling you, it's fascinating stuff, and I can't think enough. We do gotta get going, but I cannot thank you enough, and we need to do it again. I know you're getting ready to move out of the country, but brother, we need to get you back on the show and talk to you some more, because I'm telling you, this has been fascinating. We've done a lot of interviews, and they're all great in different respects. It's great getting to talk to members of Raider Nation and the media and whatnot, but I'm telling you, your stories are fantastic, brother. This has been awesome. I cannot thank you enough.
Unfortunately, I haven't even got started yet. There's better ones than this. This is even the tip of the iceberg. I would love to. I'll tell you what. I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to be moving out of the country, but we could do this again when I'm out in the Caribbean, out there or whatever. We could do this anytime. So tell the Raider fans they could contact me. I'd love to talk to every Raider fan if I could.
This is a great way to do it.
A lot of things they need to know.
We're all over any podcast service, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, you name it. Plus, of course, YouTube and whatnot. And so this is a great way to get your message out. And if you're gracious enough to let us be your sounding board, man, I mean, this has been awesome.
Absolutely. And it happened this way for a reason. I really believe that because there's been people that have approached me, they said, "Hey, we want to tell your story." And then they looked at, they say, "Well, it costs a lot of money," and, or this or that. But something happened. It's been strange. I mean, some weird things that just lined up to where it's time to talk. I mean, it started when I lost my job in Oakland, and the guy that replaced me was a good friend of mine who I helped get my job. And he lived with me. And the Raiders still don't know about this. Kevin Ross lived with me while he was coaching. He took over for me. He was living at my place.
Oh, my gosh.
So he knew I was helping Nnamdi. He saw it, but he kept us not. He just said, kept his mouth quiet.
But let's definitely do it again. Thank you so much again, Randy. I can't appreciate you enough for being willing to do this. And
oh, absolutely. It's a matter of fact, I had something I was gonna. I'm on Instagram. I just put an account up on Instagram.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook, and my Instagram name is 00 for Jim Otto. Okay, and then it's .true.raiders.coach, because I am the guy that you all thought was trying to distract. I remember back it bothered me that the Raider fans thought I was a distraction. It bothered me back then. It was killing me back then that I couldn't talk or say anything, because I was the biggest fan as anybody else, and the people were saying I was a distraction, and I'd hear comments that Raider fans would make about, and it really bothered me because it wasn't true. I actually was trying to keep the thing under wraps, and it's my fault that I lost it because I didn't come out and say anything. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I was trying to be anything but a distraction, and it came out just the opposite, and so I'm coming back home again. It's like I feel like I'm coming back home. Things kind of lined up, because what are the odds that the guy that I had my best game against comes back 10 years later and he coaches the Raiders and becoming the highest paid coach ever, and he hires Tom Cable.
I know. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Tom Cable knows what happened that day. He knows exactly what happened that day. But anyway, he took the credit for it. He was the kid coach. But anyway, that's fine. He should. That's great. But
so it's 00.true.raiders.coach. Is that right?
Yeah, 0000.true.raider, not Raider, Raider coach.
Raider coach. Okay, beautiful.
So you're gonna get interviews that ESPN was afraid to do because the NFL blocked it. That's another story I could tell you.
This is fantastic.
They actually had the police reports. They were going to run a story because I gave them a copy of them. And the night before the story was to be ran, the NFL called ESPN's president and told him, "You better not run that story." And they didn't. They blocked. They ended up covering it up. So ESPN knew about it. But anyway, so that's the type of stuff I'm going to give you.
Well, I'm flattered that you give us the exclusive, and we will be responsible with it. This is awesome, man. I can't thank you enough.
No, I would. It's meant for a reason, because so many people have wanted to do it, like I said before. But it's meant to be done this way. It's like me going back to my family. It's like me being separated and coming back home again. That's how I feel.
Right on.
So it's mirth and not homage. Yeah, and the other thing I was going to say, I worked. This is how hard I worked when I was coaching. I mean, it'd be hard for me to believe that anybody else would have worked as hard as I did in the 20 years I was a coach in college and in the NFL. I was just nonstop. If you look at me when I coached 10 years ago, and you look at me now, I look 10 years younger, believe it or not, than I did 10 years ago. I mean, it shocks me when I even look at them. I mean, wow. I'm saying that's how hard I worked. And I'm looking at other guys. They kind of look like they just keep getting older and older and older. In a way, what happened with Caleb and all that might have saved my life. The way I was going, you never know.
Yeah. Wow.
Because I've gotten healthier and I've gotten in better shape, and it's weird how it all worked out, but I'm happy. And when the Raiders weren't doing so well this year, as the season went on, I that's when I opened that account. I said it's time for me to say something, because this game's been going on too long. It started back in Shanahan, and it's been this charade about blame the players, it just got to stop, because they got talent. They had talent, and you just don't trade away Lawrence Taylor. So that type of stuff just got to stop. That frustrates me.
Well, I can't thank you enough. I'm flattered that you're willing to share these stories on our show. And again, we'll be responsible with it. Again, man, you've been amazingly kind and gracious with all this, and we will promote your Instagram.
And I got some stuff. I'll post some articles from what players have said about me, and what the players thought that people don't know about. And I wanted to know. I've been quiet for so long that it's time for me to get a chance to let people know what's really going on, because I get game tape still. Do you know that? I can still watch every game every week of every team in the NFL. I ordered it.
Oh, so no kidding!
I could tell you what's going on. I could sit there and break down a game and tell you what happened and why they lost. I mean, I could tell you, I could do it. I could do it as well as those guys better than those guys do it. Those analysts do it on TV. Probably better.
Oh my gosh. How fun would that be, man? We could absolutely. That would be great. Get into some X's and O's. I'm telling you, that would be
and
a lot of fun.
And I could even relay tendencies back to the Raiders so they know what they are through you. You see what I'm saying? Hey, when they get in this formation, the team's going to pick seriously.
That would be
and
amazing.
I could actually help the Raiders win that way. Maybe that's the way I do it.
Hey, there we go. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. All right, my friend.
Yeah, I got the games. All right. Thanks again for calling, and you got my number, and I appreciate everything. And thanks for having me. I'm sorry that I had too many stories.
No, you're absolutely no. Please don't apologize a bit. I can't thank you enough for your time. You've been very gracious with it. But yeah, man, this has been awesome, and I appreciate you, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, Randy. Take care, my friend.
You bet. Thank
you.
you.
All right, buddy. See you. Bye-bye.